No. And the reason is that that wouldn't happen. There is such a thing, simply in economics, there's such a thing as diseconomies of scale. Those scales cannot be sustained. No business has ever sustained it. It can't. There's always competition. You can't keep competition down. You can't keep competition out. And my favorite example is the closest we've come to the Carnegie everything, which was Standard Oil, right? The monopoly that we all taught was evil. But what are we taught about monopolies? If you take any economics class, maybe even at George Mason, I don't know if they teach perfect competition and monopoly in George Mason, but what are we taught about monopolies? Why do we hate monopolies? Why are monopolies bad? Because what happens under monopolies? What happens to pricing? They go up, right? Because there's no competition to drive them down, so they keep sucking profit until some marginal thing intersects with some other marginal thing, which is not optimal, right? I can't remember offhand what it is. And it's irrelevant because that theory is stupid, but to put it bluntly. That's what we're taught. Prices always go up. And what happens to quality when a monopolist control the market? What happens to quality? It goes down. If you go back, if you go to Rockefeller Standard Oil in the 1870s, I think it was, when he had over 90% of all oil refining in the United States, about as monopolistic as it gets. Want to guess what happens to prices? They go down dramatically every year. You can go look at the records. What happens to quality? It goes up. Why? He didn't have a coercive monopoly, so he couldn't force competition out, so he knew if he slipped, somebody would come in, right? Somebody would take his business, and he couldn't afford to do that. In spite of that, right? In spite of the fact that he kept prices down, he kept quality up, he was competed completely out of business. What was he selling in 1870? Kerosene. Kerosene. Who competed him out of business? Rockefeller. What was kerosene being used for? This is Rockefeller. What was kerosene being used for? Lighting. Who replaced him? Edison. Who could have imagined Edison was a competitor of Rockefeller? No bureaucrat, even Rockefeller probably couldn't imagine it, but he was a shrewd enough businessman to know that if he didn't keep his prices low, somebody would come. And in this case, even though he kept them low, somebody still came and competed him out of business. There's simply no example in the history of capitalism, to suggest that anything remotely like what you're proposing is remotely possible. It just doesn't exist. Competition and innovation, as long as a corporation can't use force, literal guns like government can, to stop people from entering its marketplace, people will. Look at Microsoft.
Windows.
What's that?
Price high, quality low.
What price high?
Windows. Price high.
Yeah, when the price high with quality low, what happened? People went out and wrote programming in Unix and created a free competitive product. Unfortunately, Apple in those days wasn't doing very well, so they weren't a real competitor. But you got real competition, of course, and ultimately Google is a competitor, and ultimately you've got lots of competition today for Microsoft. You've got the web. And what did they really get attacked for, Microsoft? Did they get attacked for prices high, quality low? No, they got attacked for giving stuff away. They got attacked for Internet Explorer, for giving it for free. Right? And what happened when they gave it for free? That's okay. Who uses Internet Explorer today? 1, 2, maybe 5% of the audience. How many of you do that because of the Justice Department? Now, maybe because I think the Justice Department slowed their progress down. That is, I think they would have been a better competitor if not for the Justice Department. But the fact is that we have Safari, we have Firefox, we have Chrome. I don't even, you can see what I use, right?
What do you use?
I use Safari.
We're done.
So Chrome, is that what I should be using? Chrome, okay. I learned something at every lecture I give. So that scenario just doesn't happen. And if people really don't like it, then they stop buying Carnegie shoes. Some local saying, what do you call it, shoemaker, right? Will make shoes, and you'd look at people today. They'll go and spend extra money to buy organic from these little farmers who are not controlled by AMD and Cargill, right? The big, industrial. They'll go and buy organic. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Not an expert. It seems to be kind of stupid, but I don't know, right? Because you know, I'm not sure the science is there, but who cares? They think the science is there. Maybe the science is there. Maybe they're right. But there's a market for them. And it's not a market that was created through force. It was a market that created through competition. And that will always exist in capitalism.